Senator Capito.
Chairman, thank you all for your service, and thanks for the great information. We had a hearing several weeks ago on broadband mapping, and I think my first comment was it was deja vu all over again. We've had numerous hearings on mapping. The data that you all generate doesn't match with what the anecdotal data that we see in our communities, and I think this is universal on the committee. So we joined together, I did, with Senator Schatz, Moran, and Tester to introduce the Broadband Data Improvement Act, and there's a lot of different bills out that would do this, but our bill would reform and eliminate the current 477 process and would encourage shapefile formats, a more granular approach that we think would be more accurate. At least this is what we're looking for. And the new information would give us better data, and I think it would also include sharing data across different government entities who have different programs to promote this. So I was just wondering, Chairman, if you have a reaction to that on the broadband mapping issue, and what improvements that you might see that could be come about because of the improved, more granular data that we can generate.
I appreciate the question, Senator, and as you and I have discussed before, we've seen it in places like Capon Springs and Wardensville, right, that we need to understand where broadband is, and more importantly, where it isn't, to target those resources. I support the purpose of your legislation. I understand that our staffs have been in touch, and consistent with the announcement I made this morning, we would look forward to working with you as we try to make those maps more granular, more accurate, and ultimately more useful to the Commission and, of course, to you.
I mean, what do you say is has been the biggest roadblock? Why can't we get there, or why haven't we gotten there yet with the mapping system?
The fundamental problem is that there are only two ways to thread this needle. Either, number one, the FCC hires thousands and thousands of people to go out into the country and to verify, or we have to rely on information we get from the outside. And that's why, as part of my part of this mapping initiative that we're going to be rolling out, we're going to be looking at other sources of information like crowdsourcing to try to get a better sense of where broadband is.
Yeah, Mr. O'Reilly, can you? I think we talked about this. Thank you for your visit the other day. We talked about the need for coordination among agencies to eliminate any kind of overbuilding. You mentioned you're interested in delivering more to those who have no service at all, rather than up in service of folks that are already. Could you talk about the different coordinating capacities to be able to maximize our and make our process more efficient?
Well, first, let me congratulate and thank the committee for its leadership on legislation to solve this issue. I do worry that funding from different agencies will go to upgrade speeds in areas that already have service. We can dispute what the number is in terms of the unserved population, but there is definitely an unserved population. That is my focus. They're the hardest to serve. We did the easy cases, we did the medium cases, we did the medium hard cases, and now we're in the really hard cases to solve. And that's where I'm trying to spend my time. I've been talking about the Remote Areas Fund for quite a while, and I know the chairman's working on that issue, and so that's really important. But coordination is so key, and coordination matters to the eye of the beholder. And if that's just a conversation between agencies, that's not sufficient. If it's dealing with the fact that we have funding that is going to particular areas that not be duplicated in other programs, whether it's Department of Agriculture, whether it's NTIA or elsewhere, that those dollars not go to the same places to fund competing interests by the federal government.
Thank you. Mr. Carr, I think the FCC generated a report in terms of telehealth that basically said that showed some I think former Commissioner Clyburn sort of brought this to my attention, that showed that the health of where you are, there is some overlap as to the deployment of broadband within your area. Obviously, in West Virginia, we have challenges with our deployment, but also challenges with our health. What is the FCC doing with this data in terms of telehealth, and how can we assist you? I believe you're coming to West Virginia maybe this summer, where we're going to do a deep dive on this. If you could talk about that.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. You're exactly right. There is a correlation between low income, lack of broadband access, and poor health outcomes. And the FCC, I think, can have a role to play in addressing it. And that's why we're launching this new Connected Care pilot program designed for low-income consumers to make sure that regardless of where they're living, they can have access to high-quality care. Because particularly in rural America, we're facing a doctor divide where we're going to be short 42,000 to 120,000 doctors in the near term, and technology can help address that.
Yeah, well, I look forward to having you visit. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Capito.